And with that, guys, let's kick off this whole Eastern Conference discussion by talking about that big showdown tonight. Nets Sixers, 7 Eastern on ESPN. Harden, Durant, and Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge all out tonight. The good news for Brooklyn is Kyrie is available to play after missing yesterday's game against the Wolves for attending to a family matter. As we look ahead with just over a month left in the regular season, which team do you trust more heading into the postseason, Brooklyn or Philly, Richard?
Well, I think right now you have to say Philly, mainly because Philly has had their whole team. We've seen everybody on their roster. Joel Embiid is back. Look, you have a guy like Ben Simmons who's up for Defensive Player of the Year and probably could be the leading candidate. You have Joel Embiid who was top 2, maybe top 3, at times leading for the MVP. So this team has been playing great. So you have to trust them. The Nets still have more talent. If the Nets are 100% healthy, they will be the favorites. But they have not been that, and it's been now, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, I don't think you have to pick Philly. I think Richard's trying to bully you into picking Philly. I'm still taking Brooklyn, and the key thing is their health, obviously, if they're healthy. But they're such a talented team, similar to an all-star team or an Olympic team where even though you haven't been with these guys for a long time, you're so talented you can make that chemistry work. And we've been harping on their defense a lot. But if you look at it, Kyrie has been playing defense. James has been playing defense. KD plays defense. So their defense, I'm not exactly sure what their numbers are, but come playoff time, these guys are going to be ready to play. Their key is their health. But I also love what Philly's been doing, Embiid being healthy and what Doc has.
It says, who do you trust more?
I trust the Nets because they have more experience and they've been there. And that's why I don't think the seeding matters so much because the Nets have plenty of championship experience. Philly is new to this, and if they're going to make that run, I think obviously a home court is more important for them.
I think the seeding doesn't matter as much for Brooklyn, although if they are the number 2, that means you got to face either Giannis or Embiid in the first in the conference final. In the second round of the East, yes, you know what I mean.
That also means those two guys have to face their three-headed monster.
Right,
too,
exactly. So. But I would say that for Philly, it's very important, right? Because their margin is a little bit different. Their home record is a little bit different, right? The balance between that is different. And I just think the confidence level they would get would be different than the Nets' confidence level.
If you also think about it, if Embiid has an off night in the playoffs, most likely Philly has a good chance of losing. If KD doesn't have off nights. If Kyrie has an off night, if Harden has an off night, they can still win. You know what I mean? So it's just the Nets have a nice deck. That's all I got to say. They got a nice deck.
Must be nice. And defensively, Nick Claxton, too. I don't want to forget to shout him out. I mean, he's been really what's powering their defensive effort. So, we'll see how much playing time he ends up getting in the playoffs because they certainly have a glut of guys at that position right now. All right, with that, let's kick things off by discussing. Oh, no, we just talked about that. Keep going. We're going to move on to Jayson Tatum. I was like, we're discussing the things we just discussed, but I do want to circle back to Jayson Tatum because his performance against the Blazers last night, that final dagger 3 sealed the win. And look, you just heard his lingering COVID symptoms, Matt. What do you feel about the way he has been able to ramp up his game despite that late in the season, which is a version of what he did, of course, without the COVID after the All-Star break last year?
I'm a huge fan of Jayson Tatum. I think he's one of the bright stars of the game. Obviously, him and Brown have identified themselves as one of the best young trios. I think a lot has to do with just Marcus Smart's presence. I know we're talking about Jayson Tatum right now. His numbers post All-Star break are 27 a game. He's at 50, 40, 90 from the field, so he's definitely stepped his game up. But although Marcus Smart's numbers aren't going to overwhelm you, although he'll drop 30 some nights, his presence on the floor is so comforting. It's almost like a security blanket for that team. And I think now that they're going to get him back in the mix, this was the team that I picked post All-Star to really kind of pick their game up. And to me, to be honest with you, with all due respect to the Hawks, outside of the Hawks, if there was no Brooklyn, I could see any of those 5, 6 teams possibly making the finals because the East is so wide open and wild and evenly matched.
Yeah, and look, this is Jayson Tatum. I had the opportunity to interview Brad Stevens, and he said, look, with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, we want them by the time they're 27 to be 2 of the best leaders.
Forget how young they are.
Yeah, we want them to be 2 of the best leaders in the NBA. So it's not just like, oh, they're scoring. And right now, Marcus Smart is such a heartbeat for them, and he is kind of like that defensive presence. You see it with guys like Draymond or, back in the day, Tony Allen. It's like he just brings that intensity. But that's where they're working with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. All the talent talents there. They both had all-star games. They're 24 years old. But it's like, okay, well, where can they improve to make our team great? And it's leadership. It's every single day. It's the competitiveness. It's holding each other and other people accountable, not just the coach doing that. So I think Jayson Tatum is reaching new heights, but we also have to look for not just his game, but his leadership and how that improves.
If you missed the final minutes of that game last night because it was late on the East Coast, it is worth going back and taking a look. It was a really fun ending. I really loved watching Jayson Tatum and Carmelo Anthony go at each other. Right? I mean, they're so much fun, and obviously the style's so similar because Jayson said after the game, is very sweet. He goes, Carmelo was one of my heroes. He's one of the guys, besides Kobe Bryant, that I really grew up wanting to play like, and you could see that. Also interesting from Marcus Smart in the post-game interview session last night. He said, I heard what everyone's been saying about me. I heard them say that I've lost a step. He said, I had to recover from an injury. That's what was happening. He said, but I heard what everyone was saying. And by the way, he goes 2 times, first team all defense. I think he's going to add another one.
I'll be fine.
Add that another one.
And he's still in his 20s.
And I'm good. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.